What's up, Tsla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm also going to break down what's happening with the market moving forward as we just had CPI come out. And the data was not that great, so I'm going to break down the information and how this could affect the markets. But just know that I'm not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Webull link. If you deposit any amount of money, you're guaranteed 12 free stocks. If you deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 in total, and deposit $25,000 or more, and you're guaranteed 75. The offer ends very soon in just 3 weeks. Anyways, now let's talk about the market. So Tesla's kind of flat right now during the pre-market session, but looking at SPY and the QQQ, they are dipping a little bit as we just got our very, very key inflationary report, and the data was not that great. So I'm going to talk about why on earth that is. So this person known as Garrett Soloway, they kind of summarized everything very nicely. Inflation is upticking and the jobless claims rocket higher. Once again, not the best of news. So let's talk about this right here. Today is Thursday, October 10th, 2024. Core CPI month over month was at 0.3%. That's above the consensus in the forecast and very similar to what we saw before. However, core CPI year over year is at 3.3%. That is above what we saw last time and above the consensus and the forecast. So this went up a little bit. Core CPI, not the best of news. CPI month over month, that was at 0.2%. That is technically above what we were expecting, but the same as what we got before. And then CPI year over year was at 2.4%, went down a little bit compared to before, but once again above the consensus and forecast. So everything was basically above expectations for CPI. The core side went higher than expected, so this one went up quite a bit. And then year over year inflation was the only thing that was still a little bit below what we saw last time. But besides that, core is still too hot. And then on top of this, we had initial jobless claims. These were at 258,000, so this was above expectations as well. Continuing jobless claims were also above expectations at 1.8 million. So not the best of data, guys. Not the best of data. So when you look at it like this, we could see that when you look at all items CPI, which is accounting for food and energy, that's what's dragging this down a little bit lower. All items CPI is on a slight downtrend, still holding up decently. And this is not too bad. The expectations were very close to what we got. We were a little bit above. So this was still not as bad. But on the core side, all items without food and energy, the purple line right here is showing an increase. And that's what I was telling everyone about. There's a slight increase. The first time we got an increase like this in our CPI in many, many months. This is for a month over month basis. Also, the year over year did go up a little bit as well. So, not the best of news, guys. Not the best of news. Seeing core going up above expectations. There's more specific details about the data. I'm sure you guys don't want me to go over everything here. You could look at this, and I will go over this maybe in a later video. But this is what the data looks like. But core did end up going up. Now, for more news, the market may have to shift its view. This might start going down a little bit, and this might start going up. If the market thinks that the Fed might not be as confident about a 50 basis point cut after that, we'll see about that. For earnings, there's not much coming out, just JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, and a few others. And then for news about the markets, as you know, CPI was a big factor. Besides that, there's been a lot of talk about the FOMC minutes. Right now, with all this data coming out, this could affect how the market views what the Fed is going to do. And also, it's going to be giving us more insights about monetary policy and factors like that. Besides that, I didn't see anything else that's too crazy on the news. But for Tesla, I do want to mention that we have the robotaxi events today after the market closes in the nighttime. The share price of Tesla could still outperform the market if they announce some very, very big things, and the share price and the investors like it. If not, we'll see how it goes, but I'll talk more about that a little bit later on. So, what's happening to Tesla? If anything, Tesla is very uncertain about the event, and that's why it's very tight right now, going back and forth and back and forth. It may remain tight before we get a massive move. So, what's happening is we're not seeing as much volatility because there's going to be a big surge that happens by tomorrow morning. So, I'm thinking that Tesla may continue to consolidate in this range. It might attempt to get up to 244, then start dipping with the market to 240. We'll see if 240 holds. If not, we could be dipping closer to 238 or so. That's our main support. If that breaks, we turn more bearish. The gap fill below. We're on a bit of a downtrend on Tesla making lower highs. I think we might just continue to consolidate today. But then when the robotaxi event comes, this is going to either gap up and start pushing or gap down and start dumping. We'll just have to wait and see what they end up announcing. So be very, very patient. There's going to be a big move coming. That's why the share price is very, very tight. It's getting ready for that. So be patient with Tesla. Might be range bound. As far as SPY goes, the 4 hour is showing that we might be dipping all the way down to 573. So we look a little bit more bearish to me. We're barely holding the previous resistance, which is now support at the all-time high. We could get a little rebound in the morning and start dipping back down to 573 or below. But I anticipate a little bit of downside after that CPI report, so be ready for that. Watch 576 as resistance, followed by 577. We could pop a little bit closer to 576, maybe a little bit below that, and then we could start dipping down to 573. If that fails, this 570.5 is coming. So anticipate some downside, guys. I think the chart is favoring that move. As far as Nvidia goes, we look a little bit more bearish. We had our AI event. It was amazing. However, we priced in a lot of it already. To be bullish, you want to break past 134. To be bearish, you want to see us lose 130. My gut tells me we're going to be dipping down to 129.18, and we'll see how we end up reacting here. If we lose this, we could be dipping closer to 126. But I anticipate a little pump and drop and move back down to 129, so be mindful of that. For ES, as you guys can see, we didn't really like the CPI report that much, and also initial jobs comes for above expectations, a little bit more bearish. Could retest 58.25 before it continues to sink, but I think we will be on our way down to 5800 flat for a small dip at least, and then if that fails, us 57.84 is next. So look for a small dip and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. For Bitcoin has a bearish structure here. We could dip a little bit lower. We have 61,200 as our resistance, not to mention 62,000 above that. We could pop a little bit and start dipping lower all the way down towards 59,900 and maybe even below that. So watch to see a little pop and drop like move, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. As far as NQ goes, NQ has a double top leg structure. We basically have 20,500, which was our target. We came just short of that. And now we're kind of rejecting here. So this could be like a double top that's forming. It could pop to 20,400 and start dipping. And I anticipate 20,277 is coming. And we'll see if that holds. If it does not hold, we're going to the lower 20,000s. So this could be a double top and there could be some downside coming. We came just short of our target only to come back down because CPI was not the best. So we'll see how it goes. For the QQQ, we're going to be looking for basically resistance around 493. If we break that, we could be looking for 495 plus, and our main supports at 488, and then 485. We could pop a bit and start dipping back down to 488. That's the most likely case in my opinion. Might be a little bit of a decline that's coming, and we'll have to see if we hold the support. Look for a pop right here, then a continuation lower as the most likely move. Apple, if we break past 229, we're looking for an attempt to get up to about 230.5. If we continue to fall, we're looking for 226 as our support zone. If that fails us, we're dipping down to 224. My gut tells me we might pop a little bit for about 228, and then we might be dipping all the way down to about the 226s. So we'll have to give this some time to see how this develops. For the IWM is looking a little bit weaker. We did attempt to rebound for the 218s, only to reject and start dipping back down to the 200 EMA around 215. If that fails us, we could be dipping even lower. So if 215 fails us, we do have this gap to fall down to 212. So be careful with the IWM. It's been on a downtrend, making lower highs. So if this lower high holds and we lose 215, we're looking for 212. May pop and then drop to 215, and we'll see if that holds. If it doesn't, anticipate some downside. For coin, we're making lower highs right now. We have a gap to fill down here on 163, so I anticipate some downside on coin. Could retest 168 and start dipping all the way down towards 163. Amzn push to our resistance. It's still holding it very nicely because of the fact that they're going to be expanding their pharmacy service with same-day medication deliveries. That's why Amazon's doing relatively well still. It's outperforming the markets, but we'll have to see how it reacts to 188. If it breaks that, we're looking for 190, so it's still a little bit more bullish. Might try to push a little higher, but watch 188 and 190's resistances. We could reject off one of those levels and return back down to 185. For Meta, a little bit more bearish looking. We're barely holding 587 R20 EMA. We'll see if we rebound a bit off this. There's going to be some buyers that defend our 20 EMA before it starts to continue lower. If we don't hold above 587, excuse me, we're dipping down to 576 soon. So there might be a little bit of a dip on Meta, so keep that in mind. For Microsoft, we're looking a little bit more bearish. We're rejecting off our 50 EMA. Could be on our way back down to 414. If 414 fails us, we're looking for basically 409. So it is on a bit of a downtrend. We also have this gap down here to fill. Still looks more bearish overall in terms of the trend. Google's rejecting as well. We could retest 163 before it continues lower for the 162 area. And then if that fails us, we're looking for 160. So watch that very carefully as well. The VIX came down. So I was initially thinking it might come down to fill this gap and then bounce, but it hasn't done that because CPI is not the best. It's trying to bounce off its 20 EMA, so it could attempt to rebound here. If that's the case, that could be bearish for the markets. And it depends if we break this resistance. That could also be bearish. So be careful, guys. There might be a small dip coming. That being said, guys, Tesla, I'm not expecting as much. It could dip a little bit, though. It might just see a little bit of a dip and then a lot of consolidation. We might be stuck between 244 and 240 for much of today, but then we'll see which way we break. If 240 fails us, we're looking for 238. If 244 breaks, look for 247. But I think for the most part, Tesla's range bound, and I think the main move is going to come overnight once we get the robotaxi event. That's what investors are waiting for. So we'll see how things go. I want to thank you all so much for listening. So have a great day. Watch your levels and peace out.